Yes. You're going to say the same thing. So yeah, that's what it is. But you know what? I'm not trying, I hope I'm doing it right. Bite down hard and we go, yeah, you just sound accurate, but we have to
Okay.
listen to it.
I figured, like I said, I didn't want to read in too much, but okay, excellent. My theology is so angry.
Welcome. Good evening, everyone. There are a few more seats up in the front if any of you want to come sit down. Feel free to make yourselves cozy. Well, good evening. I call the Tuesday, December 5th, 2023 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. Tonight we have a very special guest, a very important person coming to lead us in the pledge. So I would like to invite Jacob to come up here with the board. Come on up. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Wait,
Just say, what is your name?
I'm Jacob.
And where do you go to school?
Swiftwater. I go to school at Swiftwater Elementary, and I'm in first grade.
All right. That's excellent. And who's your teacher?
Miss Megan Lewis.
Okay. That's fantastic. And would you like to lead us in the pledge? Can you ask everyone to please stand and join you in the pledge?
Please stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. And then we're going to face the flag over this way, and then you begin, and we'll all follow.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Thank you. All right, you can go back and sit with me. Okay, item 3 is the approval of the agenda for this evening. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by David to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. The agenda is approved. This evening, we're going to do the oath of office. Superintendent Barr will now administer the oath to Chuck West, who has been reelected to District 1, Lori Glover, who has been reelected to District 3, and to me. I've been reelected to District 4.
So Chuck, Lori, and Natalie, will you please stand? Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Natalie Wimberly,
Do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of
and will faithfully discharge the duties of
Director of Peninsula School District Number 401,
Director of Peninsula School District Number 401,
Pierce County,
Pierce County,
Washington State,
Washington State,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and thank you so very much.
There may be some who were just here for that piece, so feel free to. Wimberly family, thank
Goodbye,
you.
Wimberly family.
So there are now more seats in the front if anyone would like to join us up here. Thank you. Good job, Jacob. Can we get a hand for Jacob, my nephew, who did the pledge tonight? Thank you for indulging me in that. Item 5 is the election of board officers. In accordance with Board Policy 1210, Annual Organizational Meeting Election of Officers, we will now hold elections for the president and vice president positions on the board. Those elected will serve in these roles for 1 year. We'll be taking a roll call vote for each position. Item 5.1 is for position of president, and I open for nominations.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I've been on the board now for 10 years, and this is by far the best group of board members that I've had the pleasure and honor to work with. And this past year has gone seamless and smooth, and we continue to accomplish great things. And I'd say, being a former Navy guy, don't rock the boat. So with that said, I'd like to nominate Natalie Wimberly to be board chair.
Thank you.
Can I second that?
You can, if there are any other nominations, that's open. What's another? I'll call for nominations one more time. Anyone? I'm teasing. Anyone? Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Thank you. It's been moved by David and seconded by Chuck to elect Natalie Wimberly to be the school board president. We will be taking a roll call vote on this motion. Chuck West,
Aye.
Jennifer Butler,
Aye.
David Olson,
Aye.
Lori Glover,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Thank you. Motion is carried. I will now call for nominations for board vice president.
I'll continue the theme of not rocking the boat, and being a former naval officer, I'll nominate David Olson for vice president.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Okay, it has been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori to elect David Olson to the school board vice president. We will now be taking a roll call vote on this motion. Chuck West,
Aye.
Jennifer Butler,
Aye.
David Olson,
Aye.
Lori Glover,
Aye.
and Natalie Wimberly, aye. The motion has been approved. Congratulations, David. Okay, moving on to item 6.0, comments from the community. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less based on the number of citizens requesting to speak. I think we can do 3 minutes this evening. Additional time may be granted as a reasonable accommodation for a disability or a language interpretation. I remind you all that we hold ourselves to a high level of civility, and we have the same expectation of those who are here with us this evening. So when I call your name, please come to the podium, state your first and last name, and we'll get started. The first speaker tonight is Camry Clausen. Camry Clausen.
Hello, I'm Camry Clausen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to share some thoughts that BZ Dad spoke at a school board meeting in Virginia Beach. Public means for everyone. Attacks on the LGBTQ community, attempts to ban books. Meeting after meeting, I've listened to speakers exhort you to teach Christianity in our schools. Did you know that 20% of American population isn't affiliated with any religion? Not to mention the many, many other religions in our society. If you want to teach your child your religion, take them to church, homeschool them, put them in a private school. But you do not get to force your religion on everyone. And that is who public school is for. Everyone. Whether it's LGBTQ community or books or religion, it's all the same intent, to attack and poison our country's greatest strength, our diversity. Now, it's clear that many don't understand the concept of diversity or the benefits it has provided humanity, so let me help. Woodblock, printing, gunpowder was all invented by Buddhist monks. The crank, the toothbrush, algebra was invented by Muslims. Plumbing, central heating, one of my personal favorites, cheesecake, were all invented by the Greeks. They were pagans, by the way. The motion picture, the phonograph, electric utility system was all invented by Thomas Edison, a well-known atheist. Alan Turing was an atheist and a member of the LGBTQ community. He was also essential to the winning of the World War II and created one of the very first designs for the stored program computer. Diversity is what has advanced us this far, and it is diversity that will continue to move us forward. If you really want to know what it takes to make America great, the answer is it takes everybody. And that is what should be taught in our schools. Thank you.
Next up, we have Kelsey Hoover. Kelsey Hoover. And then after Kelsey will be Carol Rivera.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Hoover. Thank you for the opportunity for coming and speaking to you today. I am a parent of a student here in the Peninsula School District. At the last school board meeting, it was very enlightening to hear the phrase sense of belonging. This is wonderful to hear, but to fully create a sense of belonging means fostering a diversity and inclusive environment for all of our students. It means ensuring all students, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, have a safe and nurturing environment to learn. It means building and fostering those relationships with students to show schools are a safe space for them to be their true and authentic selves without worry of being bullied. Creating a sense of belonging is being inclusive. It's embracing all students, those who are neurodivergent, loud, boisterous, quiet, shy, or even funny, those who are from different backgrounds and ethnicities. Being inclusive means everyone. Being inclusive means zero tolerance for racial and homophobic slurs. Did you know that students that were interviewed in middle and high school students at the middle and high schools here in Peninsula School District have said that they hear racial and homophobic slurs daily? Did you know that some students feel that these incidents, that reporting these incidents will only have them being targeted, or feel that there is no sense of reporting because there is never repercussions for these said slurs? If you truly want to combat these issues, you need to teach history in all of its ugly glory. You need to teach that we are living on Native American land. You need to teach compassion. You need to teach empathy. You need to teach our students to embrace other cultures. You need to teach diversity. Thank you.
Next up is Carol Rivera, and after Carol Rivera is Sarah Garriott.
Good evening. My name is Carol Rivera. I'm the Peninsula Education Association president. I wanted to talk today again about our efforts towards improving and supporting educator wellness. We've been very busy with the work of our grant, and so I'm just so very excited to be hosting Dr. Christopher Johnson from the National Education Association tomorrow and Thursday as he comes around our district looking at the ways our educators are embracing the opportunity to teach not just themselves, but also teach our children and our new educators better ways to manage stress, also to deal with, our emotions and feelings in a productive way and model that for our children. We are very busy also with just some of our grant activities, so we'll be reconvening 22 educators from our elementary schools back to our mindfulness training, where we are working on implementation. We've assembled the resources from their wish list that they have to enable them to go back to their buildings and work with their colleagues in their classes and the students that they've support in different ways, so we're very excited about that. We also have about 20 educators who are spending their Saturday coming up to participate in Generation Wellness Training and become building leaders to support those resources in our schools. And so I just wanted to thank the board again for putting the policy on the agenda. I think that as we grow and learn together, we can understand that the foundation for our schools are our staff. Our staff are there day in and day out, and so their wellness is important. The board policy that is there obviously is model policy, and so we have already started convening a district level committee. So we've met a couple times. We'll meet again, one with Dr. Johnson just to give kind of our updates about that work, but also we'll meet again in December to kind of look at the focus and how we can support wellness efforts. The policy that is before you, though, is very specific to secondary traumatic stress that educators experience through in supporting their children. So our goal for the district committee would be that it is more about holistic well-being of staff and students, so that we can talk about a lot of different topics that vary from physical activity to the nutrition our children receive and all of those things. So just know that although we're starting with staff well-being, our goal is to make our entire district healthy and well. Thank you.
Next is Sarah Garriott, and after Sarah, we have Juliet Bunch.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Garriott, and I'd like to maybe dispel some misunderstanding and misinformation, if you will, about Moms for Liberty, Pierce County. I don't know if people are aware that Moms for Liberty National has a black lesbian on our board of directors. We have several gay chapter chairs in our organization, and we have many members of the LGBT community in our families as well. We are not anti-LGBTQ by any means. Moms for Liberty Pierce County supports public schools and teachers, homeschool and private school. With 75% of America's children still attending public schools, we emphasize the enduring importance of public education. Our organization is dedicated to advocating for principled academic standards, committed teachers, and effective parent-supportive school board directors within the K-12 system. Safety within the schools is a top priority, as is promoting a return to common sense excellence in education. Moms for Liberty Pierce County advocates for age-appropriate, medically accurate sex education. However, we simultaneously oppose radical comprehensive sexuality education methodology, gender theory, and divisive so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs because they are based in Marxist critical race theory, which we oppose.
I'm going to ask everyone in the room to please be respectful of all speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our aim is to unite children and communities through shared experience and skills rather than dividing them based on immutable characteristics such as race. Our organization questions the excessive focus on pronouns and social justice in schools when many students struggle to meet basic academic standards. We note that only 38% of Washington children met math standards in Washington State and 51% met English language standards last year, while Washington State ranks 46th in the nation for high school graduates enrolling in higher education. To achieve equal opportunity for students, Moms for Liberty believes that teaching all children reading, writing, and arithmetic is primary. Moms for Liberty Pierce County clarifies that we do not seek to ban books, but rather encourage creation, publication, sale, and purchase of books. However, we do not support easy access for children to obscene content in public schools and recommend curating books with sexually explicit and graphic content for age appropriateness. We compare this to the requirement for parental permission when middle school children watch PG-13 movies at school. Our organization firmly believes that parents are the primary stakeholders in their children's education and healthcare, making it their right to access all information regarding their child's education, medical decisions, and mental health care. We do not view hiding information from parents, such as a child's choice to secretly use a different name or gender at school than at home, as being in the child's best interest. Nor do we believe a parent who disagrees with this secrecy as abusive. Parents have a long-term vested interest in their children's well-being as the primary stakeholders in their children's lives. Moms for Liberty Pierce County's ultimate goal is to restore education in the education system and ensure the free future of the United States of America by focusing on the best interests of each child while empowering parents and grandparents to advocate for their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Juliet Bunch, and then after Juliet will be Jen Bunch. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
My name is Juliet Bunch, and last week was my birthday, and I brought in goodie bags, but they got confiscated by my principal and my teacher, my substitute teacher, and then all I wanted to do is bring a little bit of Christmas to my room, to my classroom, and you as a school board, can you please help me to get my bags back?
Juliet, you were so quick. Hi, my name is Jen Bunch, and I'm Juliet's mom. And I'm coming here with the same thing. I've got this confiscated goodie bag in my hand, and it was deemed offensive. They give all kids with their birthday, they have a decision to bring a goodie bag or not bring a goodie bag. But as what I shared with Mr. Brooks, what I find to be offensive is we've named this school, Swiftwater, after our Native American heritage here, and we have a seal, and the seal is a predator, and it's not a fan of the Native American community. So that to me is the stark difference of something that's offensive and something that is not. So I would just gear that hopefully you guys can have a discussion with Mr. Brooks here at Swiftwater about allowing Juliet her ability to just pass out these goodie bags for her birthday. Thank you.
Next up, we have Douglas Erner.
Hi. My name's Doug Erner, and I'm a retired CTE teacher and I guess a one-time parent of a student in the district. So I was when the annual report came out, I took some time to look through it and noticed that you'd taken the time to do a study of kids and their sense of belonging in the district. And that was great, but when you look at the numbers, they're kind of scary. 71% of the elementary kids felt like they belonged, 41 in the middle school, and by the time we were at high school, it was 31%. So it seems like there's some problems, and it's not just that the LGBTQ kids feel like they don't belong. At high school, fully 2/3 of the kids are feeling like they're not belonging, which likely means they're not doing too well learning either. And I'm hoping that you will really center that as where the school improvement plan needs to start. Because I don't think you're going to get better numbers other than by jimmying them unless you address the problem that the kids feel like they don't belong. And, when my daughter was here, I know you have brilliant teachers in this district who really do create a place where every kid feels like they belong, where they feel respected and cared about, where they're safe. Where they get to be teenagers and start exploring and figuring out who they really are. And I just hope that you will honor those people and look into what they're doing that works. Because I've been there. I've sat through I don't know how many PD sessions where we say we have to listen to the kids and blah, 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 blah. And then you go out and buy a curriculum and it doesn't work. What works is having real people who care actually figuring out how to reach their kids, support their kids, and help them grow. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who came to speak tonight. We will now roll into item 7, the consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
That brings me to a point of clarification, something that I learned at WASDO. We are not allowed to say so moved. You have to make the complete motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it has been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve the consent agenda. And I have to repeat the whole thing like that as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. The consent agenda has been approved. Okay. So to all of you who have been waiting so patiently in the back of the room, we're very excited to move on to item 8.1, our fall sports recap. So I'm happy to call Assistant Superintendent Dan Gregory up to the podium to get things started.
Good evening, directors and Superintendent Barr. I am excited this evening, and it is my pleasure to introduce our 2 athletic directors from Peninsula High School and from Gig Harbor High School, Ross Filkins and Blair Sook. They have brought some student athletes along with them, and they are going to share with you all of the successes they've had through their fall sports season. Those have culminated, but probably not culminated when you thought. They've culminated as of yesterday because we had a number of athletes that were honored at the Tacoma Athletic Commission luncheon as well. So I just learned about that a day or two ago, and it was a very impressive showing there by the Peninsula School District. So right when we thought fall sports were over, we had one more celebration here earlier this week, and we are going to start with Peninsula High School. So Mr. Filkins, the stage is yours.
Down.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Barr and the board for the opportunity to be here tonight. And Tanya, thank you also for all of your help in getting our slideshow and all the coordination. I'm Ross Filkins, Athletic Director at Peninsula High School. Thank you, Mr. Gregory. It's been a great fall, and we've had a lot of fun.
Come on up. Yeah, come on. I know.
So
We know you can get rowdy.
We know that our gyms, our fields, our courts, our pools, etc., are definitely fertile grounds for learning. And so this fall we had just a great season, demonstrated tremendous growth in and out of competition. And so if you could, do I have the ability to work this here? There we go. So our fall participation, about half of our programs demonstrated growth, and you'll see some of that in the slideshow. Some of it was all-time growth. And so our participation for the fall was at our historical numbers. We're still doing a little bit in some of the programs to recover from the impact of COVID. And here we go with PC.
Hi, my name is Prince Charles, and I'll be presenting football today. Football did not make the playoffs this year, but we still had a fantastic year this year. We really came together as a community and even better as a family, and we really played together 11 as one on the field. And even better, we was on top of our grades this year. Before every practice, we was always at study table. If your grades are good, you play good. We had 10 players who all earned SSC honors, and Gabe Paradiso and Jack Carlock will represent Peninsula as National Football Foundation Scholar Athletes. And one of my favorite memories from football has to be getting my first tight end catch, and I look back at my whole team. Whoa, my whole team went crazy for me, so yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that's so good.
Hi, I'm Electra Higgins. I'm representing girls cross country for Peninsula. I placed 3rd at state, 6th at regionals. Our senior, Lola Sweet, was selected for the senior all-star team based on her state performance. This year we've had our largest girls team since 2018, and it's our 17th straight season sending a team to state. I was also Athlete of the Year. One of my favorite memories from cross country is probably our bus ride down to Oregon for our Ultima Grace trip. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, hello. My name is Cooper Levingood. We had a pretty solid boys cross country season this year. I was unfortunately the only one who made it to state this year for the boys, but everybody ran their hearts out, and we all made it to district and placed better than we were supposed to. This is our 13th straight season sending at least one boy and one girl to state. This is our first annual Hawks Nest Invitational, which is huge. This is the first time we've hosted a cross-country meet at the high school in over 2 decades. The turnout was crazy. It was really cool, helped develop that culture. Widely loved by all the spectators. And then the biggest thing of all is it's the largest team since the pandemic, which is great. Rebuilding those numbers, getting those athletes out there. Healthy athletics is healthy for the overall school. So, thank you.
That's awesome.
Hi, I'm Sydney Nichols. I'm representing girls soccer. This year we ranked 8th in the 3A state. We placed 2nd in the WCD 3A 4A district tournament, and we placed 2nd in the South Sound Conference. For the 2nd time in school history, we have gone to the state tournament back to back to back, so I think that's 3 times. And we had 7 players recognized for the SSC All-League Individual Honors. My favorite memories from this season were probably team dinners. Thank you.
My name is McKenna Post. I'm representing girls swim and dive this season from Peninsula. We finished 2nd in our conference, which is super exciting, and we had our relay, our 4x100 freestyle relay, make it to state, and that was super fun. I was able to place 2nd at state this year for the 1-meter individual diving event, and we finished our dual meet season finishing at 7-1. So out of the 8 meets we have, winning 7 was pretty exciting. And my favorite event, or my favorite memory from the season, probably just the energy that the team had this year. It was great to just have all those people there and all the fun memories. I can't just pick one. So yeah, go Seahawks.
Do I have to press this button?
My name's Alec. I'm representing for boys tennis. We had 32 boys turn out this year, which is the highest number we've had in 20 years, so it's awesome. Really fun team. We're still in no-cut sport, so everybody that shows up for tryouts is there. We placed 4th in leagues this year. We had some really hard-fought matches at leagues. Our number 1 doubles team, Thomas Cardinal and Tyler Aarons, placed 6th in league, right next to the cutoff for 5th in league, go to districts. So they really fought hard, and they also got the all-league honorable mention. So proud of them. Good for them, you know. 7 out of the 9 varsity boys also received a Scholastic Award, so excited about that as well. My favorite memory from the season was probably 2-hour bus ride down to Olympia. Fun ride. They're fun. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hearn.
And I'm Megan Webster.
And we're both here to represent the Peninsula Seahawks volleyball team. Our team got outstanding academic achievements with an average of 3.6 team GPA.
Awesome. We had a top 12 finish in the state of Washington with a record of 24-10.
We are also Tacoma Pierce County tournament champions, and our all-league honors were Zaya Sneva, first team, Avery Young, second team, McKenna Malosnik, second team, and Evelyn Sutherland, our honorable mention.
My favorite part of the season was playing card games with everyone at state.
My favorite memory from this season was definitely our preseason bowling at Oceans 5. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcus Rehm. I'm representing boys water polo. This year we went 13-1, which is a league record. We were also the D2 West champions. We were the D2 tournament, second place in districts. We also advanced to state. It was the best finish in 10 years, and I would like to personally brag that it's probably the best team Peninsula's had. I would say that my favorite memory was the team dinners after the tournaments. Thank you.
So as you can see, it was a rewarding fall for us. A couple other achievements. Took an opportunity to celebrate our state participants and qualifiers on a beautiful fall evening out there in front of Peninsula High School. And then we had a team goal for our entire school to try to have everybody reach the WIA academic achievement. And this year we actually did it in the fall. Every single one of our fall programs earned WIA distinction or outstanding. So half and half, 4 distinguished, 4 outstanding. So terrific job to all of our fall programs for being athletes before students. So, or students before athletes. Thanks so much. Any questions?
I just got one, Ross. For the no-cut sports, whenever you have a lot of people come out, how does the coach for those teams make sure that all the kids that didn't get cut get to play? Do they all get to play, or does the best kids get to play in the tournaments? How's that work?
So we have fairly robust programs. I know Gig Harbor does as well, and so we typically are going to have 3 different levels: varsity, junior varsity, and then C team or freshmen. And so as a league, we do find a way to get all of our kids out and competing and growing. So yeah, it's been really good to have as many people as possible out participating. We don't want to create artificial limits because we know the benefits of participation are tremendous. Their average GPA is going to be much higher, about 1.2 national average for those that don't participate in at least one sport. Obviously, going to have a great peer group, better self-image. They're going to miss, on average, 22 less days of school a year. Again, that's national average. So, yeah, we want to do everything we possibly can to get kids out and participating. And the only thing better than participating in one sport is 2. And so we're trying to get kids out and do as much as they possibly can. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks. Just a comment, really. Thanks for coming in to you, student athletes, for sharing. And I thought it was noteworthy how everyone's, if you ever were on a sports team, you know this already, but how everyone's favorite memory was something that had nothing to do with the athletic contest in most cases. Yep. I mean, if you won a major, come from behind or a big game, those are always memorable. But I remember when the year my son was on the baseball team at Gig Harbor, after a playoff game. For some reason, after a game, we had a team dinner at our house, and so they were all in their uniforms. And I have a picture of them playing basketball in the driveway in their baseball uniforms, and it just was fun, and it was a great memory for those guys. So, thanks.
Well, I also just want to follow up and acknowledge all of you for the work that you put in this year. Clearly, you're focused on your academics, and that's admirable, but I also want you to congratulate yourselves on being the leaders that you are in your schools. I think maybe you don't know how much the other students look up to you, and as you hear people speak tonight, sometimes we hear some tough things about what it feels to be included, and I really hope that you found that in your teams, and I think if people know how important it is to you, you might inspire someone to join something, try something new, and really, really understand what it means to be a Seahawk. I think you guys wear the uniform so well, and we're incredibly proud of you. So if you would indulge us, come up here and take a picture with us. I would love to do that.
Can I get a picture with the nephew? I want to. Who did that?
Yeah. Yeah, just come in the front.
Don't want to ruin the picture.
Smile.
You guys have a good night.
Your mom. I know.
You know what? We should. We hit the word. Go against. We should. As a fundraiser. That's funny.
We didn't have the transitions planned here, so when the microphone's empty, thank you, Mr. Filkins and Mr. Benoit. Fabulous job. Really appreciate it. And now from Gig Harbor High School, Athletic Director Blair Sook and her student athletes.
Can I just hold this instead of?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course. More of a holder. Hi, I'm Blair. I'm the AD over at Gig Harbor High School. I have some student athletes with me that they're going to share some of their memories with you. First of all teams earned a WIAA Team GPA award this year, and the fall average for Gig Harbor was a 3.635, which was outstanding. I was really proud of them. We had 35 all-league athletes, 3 league titles. All teams participated in the playoffs, and 7 of those teams participated in the state tournament. I don't have a rep here from girls cross country. They were busy running. So team GPA for them was crazy impressive for the girls. It was a 3.936. Yeah, they were second at their league meet, second at the bi-district meet, 4th place at state. And then we had Taylor Sletner and Layla Carlson finish at the podium, which was awesome because they will be back next year. Swim and dive.
Hey, can I just stand here? Okay. Awesome. I'm Delaney Moyer. I'm a junior, and I participated in swim and dive this year, and I have for the past 3 years. As a team, we had a team GPA of 3.719. We were SSC league champions, going undefeated in our league. We were 3rd at the bi-district meet, and the team sent all 3 relays to state, along with Ashlyn Pepich in the 500 free. All swimmers made the consolation finals and competed well, finishing 12th in the 200 relay. In the 400 relay, we also finished 13th, and Ashlyn Pepich finished 12th in the 500 free, and as a team, we finished 12th in the 200 medley relay. And this team has brought so much joy to my life. They have supported me through both my social and academic aspects throughout my high school career, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of the team. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ella Conrad. I'm a sophomore at Gig Harbor High School, and I participated in the girls varsity soccer team as a goalkeeper. Our team average GPA was 3.7. We were first in SSC league. We were 3rd in our tournament, and the team, we placed 16th overall in state. And some of the honorable mentions are Sage Drock, Nay, Ella Gardner, and our honorable mentions were Kennedy Marler, Sarah Ehler, which were second team, and our all-league were Elizabeth Hayes, Elise Miller, Sophie Blake. And our all-league was Sophie Blake, and she also signed to UW. Some of my favorite memories were from when we would, before our game, we would write a word on our wrist, and we would live up to that, to the game. So, like, a word would be like persevere through the game, and, like, we would have to live up to that. And it was cool, like, looking back on all of that. And, yeah.
Hi, my name is Peyton Heim. I'm a sophomore at Gig Harbor High School. This year, our team had an average GPA of 3.632. We placed second in league, second at the bi-district tournament. We competed at state and finished tied for 9th, just tied with Peninsula. So it's always great to see both programs playing well. Lydia Ward was SSE MVP of the year. I was the SSE Defensive Player of the Year. Natalie Pisecki earned first team All-League. Hannah Artman earned second team All-League. And Lydia Ward has signed to play volleyball and throw javelin at Kentucky Christian University, which is really cool. My favorite part about playing volleyball at Gig Harbor is just the family that you have. You know, you can have a bad day and you go to practice and you see your coach, who we all had a really great relationship with our coach and the players. It's always just really great to be able to kind of get away from school or friends or anything family boys and just go, you know, play the sport that you love. So thank you. I love volleyball.
All right, for boys cross country, their team GPA, impressive 3.786. They were third at the league meet. They probably could have gotten first, but our number 1 and number 2 runners, who were in first and second place, took the wrong turn on the course. And so we had 2 freshmen speed up to earn third place and actually get them to the next level, which was super impressive. At state, they finished 9th overall. Jonathan Miles placed 5th, and Preston Fraudette took 7th, and they were the 2 that disqualified from that league meet. So big props to our freshmen. And we just heard today, so I couldn't add it, Patty Lay was named Washington State Cross Country Coach of the Year. So congratulations to her as well.
Hello, I'm Hugh. I'm a junior at Gig Harbor High School, and this is my 3rd year playing tennis. We had a team GPA of 3.368, and we were SEC league champions with only 1 loss during the season. Rylan Couvert and I finished first in all league doubles and won the league title, and we earned our. Braden Smee finished second at earning all second at all league doubles, 4th in the league. Fourth in the leagues and competed at districts. Jonah Eilers and Luke Jollyboys finished as an honorable mention at all league doubles, but finished 5th in the league competition at districts. The Gig Harbor tennis program is it's very positive and supporting. And during the season, a specific moment that I can recall this is during Jonah Eilers and Luke Jollyboys' last league match in order to qualify for districts, where they were playing against our rivals Peninsula, and they were playing a very tough match, and they were behind and they lost a set, and they were able to bring it out of them and come back and win that match, and everybody was going crazy, and it was just an incredible environment to be in, and I felt very supported and very welcomed by my team and the community around it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Benji Park. I'm a senior. I played football all 4 years in high school. This year we had a team GPA of 3.291. We placed second in the SSC with only 1 league loss, and we had hosted a home playoff game for the first time in many years. We had 5 all-league honorable mentions, 2 second-team all-leagues, and 7 first-team all-league members, with many players being all-league in offense and defense. And Ben Stevens signed to play football on a scholarship at Portland State. The football team also does a lot to help out in the community with visiting elementary schools before home games. The food bowl that we put on with Peninsula every year, the week of the fish bowl, getting thousands of food donations for the community. So it's really impactful for the community and as well as students on the team, giving them motivation to get their grades up, be a good person and lead at the school. and it's given me a sense of belonging, like we've talked about too. So it's very impactful, and it's meant a lot to my high school career. Thank you.
Benji won't tell you, but he actually had a feature this year on Eric's Heroes. So if you're interested in checking that out, it was a pretty cool story about his career from 8 years old all the way to now. So it was really, really heartwarming. Finally, boys water polo, who has our banquet tonight. They took 3rd in their league and 4th at Division II state, and our coach, Alana, was named All-League Coach of the Year, which was exciting because she's a second-year coach. We had a couple of All-League members, and the boys water polo team, I don't know if you guys have been to a water polo match, but it is probably the most intense sport that I have ever seen in my entire life, because swimming is hard, and trying to score a goal is hard, but then you're doing it trying to wrestle the other team, trying to stay above the water. It's really intense. It's a really fun environment. We don't get a ton of fans in the pool, but I really encourage you to come out, not just for boys water polo, but also for girls water polo, which Delaney is also a part of, because it's a really, really intense sport. And I have so much respect for those athletes. It is something that I don't think I could ever physically do. And I'm really proud of what they can do, because it is kind of an underrepresented sport. So please come and watch them. You guys good? Yep. Okay, so I just want to say thank you to you guys for showing up tonight and speaking about your sports. Thank you to the board and to Creston for all of your support this fall. We couldn't really do it without all of these people here, so we really appreciate it. And we look forward to the winter and the spring, which these guys will be showing up for as well, because like Ross said, multi-sport athletes are super important to us. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Do you know how many students total, by chance, were involved? Total.
Let me count real quick.
It doesn't have to be exact, but just
I want to say it was 392.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
That sounds very specific.
Yeah, that sounds exact.
Just thinking to an old spreadsheet. Sorry.
No, great.
Thank you. Well, will say ditto to what I said to the Peninsula students. We just want you to know how incredibly proud we are of you, and these grades are just amazing. And I think that sometimes I tell my own kids, the busier you are, the better you do at most things. So really good on you for putting yourself out there and taking on, it's extra work, it's extra time. I know you spend a lot of time on buses. It sounds like not a lot of homework is getting done on the bus. But you, too, wear those uniforms incredibly well, and you represent not only Gig Harbor High School, but the Peninsula School District very well. And we're just proud of all of our student athletes. So thank you for coming and speaking tonight. That's not always easy. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in some other sports. And I have tried water polo. So I would say I was a swimmer, and I tried water polo, and it is difficult. So they're all difficult. So good job, you guys. We'd love to have you come up here for a picture as well.
That was great.
As the board sits back down and before Mr. Filkins leaves, just to kind of close out this segment, David asked about, what do you do with all those student athletes that turn out and have C teams, as Ross referred to. I just want to thank both Ross and Blair for their leadership and all the time and effort that they put in. Different teams within our league don't always have all those games and all those levels, and so they put in a lot of hours searching out different schools in the region so that they can match up and let all of our kids who turn out in the non-cut sports participate. So again, Blair and Ross, before you walk out the door, we just wanted to take a moment and thank you and appreciate all the work that you do to give the opportunities for these students. So thank you.
thank you. Love that. Love seeing those kids here. That's fantastic. Our next item is 8.2, our curriculum report. So I would like to call our Chief Academic Officer, John Yellowlees, up to the podium to start it off. And who's with you, Natalie Boyle? Okay, great. Thanks, you guys.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Board of Directors and Superintendent Barr, and thank you to those of you who stayed. Most left, and it's always hard to follow student presentations, and it's just always amazing to hear how impressive our student athletes are and how well they're doing both at sports and academically. So Natalie Boyle and I are here tonight to provide a presentation, a report on curriculum. James Cantonwine couldn't join us tonight, but he and Natalie were instrumental in creating the content for this report, the information that we'll share with you this evening. So we'll jump right in, and we included this slide. Curriculum, instruction, teaching and learning obviously is at the core of what we do as an organization, and we just wanted to include this slide to highlight the fact that when we talk about curriculum, it really touches on each of these goal areas within the strategic plan. So needless to say, academic excellence, but also innovation, very much fiscal responsibility, learning environment, of course, and community engagement. And we'll talk more about how community and families are involved in the process in the following slides. So for some background, our focus this year has really been on developing systems. We went through, as you know, a central office reorganization this past summer. And from that, we created a new teaching and learning department. And that department really encompasses traditional teaching and learning structures as well as student services programs, all under one comprehensive umbrella. And like I said, we're really focused on developing systems this year, and those systems are in alignment with the strategic plan, in alignment with our district improvement plan, and are really intended to be systemic, and after we are long gone, will hopefully prevail and be in place for future staff and students within the district. One of those systems that we're focused on is really building robust and transparent process for reviewing, piloting, and reaching consensus on recommended core curriculum. We'll talk more about that this afternoon and describe that process in some detail. That process involves including input from all stakeholders, a wide variety of stakeholders, including our staff, including our families, including our community. And we really want to be able to document and visualize that curriculum in a way that we haven't historically. We haven't done a great job of that in the district, but what we'll share with you tonight is a way in which we can show what is our core curriculum, when was it adopted, when is the review date, and have that really visible and transparent for our community. Part of that involves Policy 2020, which we've had some discussion about, and that policy, again, we'll delve into that a little bit more in the future slides. We'll talk about when that comes into play for a core curriculum adoption, and as you all are familiar with, what typically happens is as the legislature passes a law, creates an RCW, that often then becomes a Washington Administrative Code. And then WASDA often takes that information, they'll create some policy and procedures, and school boards then use that as model policy and procedures to create their own policy and procedure for the school district. So, well, again, we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like as we move through the slide deck here and talk about when that Policy 2020 comes into effect in a core curriculum adoption. So with that, I will pass the mic to Natalie.
Thank you. So the flow chart pictured here walks you through our process once a curriculum need is identified. That identification process can happen just on our regular review cycle, that we review curriculum to see if it's meeting our needs on a scheduled basis, or there are some circumstances where a need arises and we have to go through that process. Steps 1 through 4, pictured above, are really driven by our teaching and learning department. The first very step is to pull together an adoption committee. The committee often is a process of collecting teachers as well as other support staff that support a specific curriculum area. And while the teaching and learning department is working to facilitate that process, we're not voting members of this process. So it really is the teachers that are impacted by the curriculum that are making all the decisions in steps 1 through 4. Within this process, there are a couple of key areas where we reach out for additional information, support, feedback from our teachers, as well as our students that are going through those courses, parents who have had children in that system, and then the committee. Within the research step, that is our initial stage, and oftentimes that is when we go and create the website page for the curriculum area. So you saw those examples when we were working through elementary science or high school science, social studies. We create a landing page for that adoption where all of our timelines get posted, any updates to the community, decisions that are made, all of that gets posted to the district website. We also have the ability during that time to broadcast larger input surveys. So again, this is in that research phase of our adoption. And so that's when we reach out to get input from all teachers who teach the curriculum, not just those in the curriculum pilot or curriculum adoption group, as well as students, both currently enrolled and former students who have taken coursework, families, and then we also publicize that within our social media routes to get a lot of stakeholder input. As we move on in the classroom pilot process, that's another area where we are gaining a lot of feedback from not only, again, those teachers that are going through the pilot process, but also students. As part of our pilot process, we collect student surveys, and our adoption committee reviews that information about what students are saying about the curriculum. We also, during this time, once a pilot has been identified, we have the ability to post the resource to our district landing page for that group. And so if families want to get on or the community wants to get on and preview what the curriculum is, that is their ability within the page. And we have generic logins that the distributor or the vendor gives us access to. And we always put a survey or a way to collect that information posted to the district website as well. Once a curriculum is identified, so in step 4, the adoption committee reaches consensus. So once that adoption is identified or that vendor is recommended, and before it goes through the second reading of the school board adoption, that is when we have those community preview events. So that is oftentimes a Zoom meeting, a couple of different times posted for the ability to get a preview of the curriculum as well as questions answered. As John noted in the slide previous, step 5, IAC/IMC, is where the School Board Policy 2020 comes into play. And the role of IAC and IMC is to ensure that steps 1 through 4 were followed with fidelity, strategically, following our aligned process. And that is that step that has to happen before it comes to you as a school board as a recommended adoption for approval. Since forming our new teaching and learning department, we were asked by the school board to represent all the curriculum that was in use by the district. And as John has noted, this is not something that we have had in public facing. We have had internal data sources of all of this information, but it wasn't on a public facing page. So what you're going to see tonight is new, and it is not live to the public yet, but it will be first thing tomorrow morning. So you, as a school board, are getting visibility on this first, and then we'll make it public to everyone, and it'll live under the academics page of our curriculum. The other thing I want to note before we dig into the website a little bit is the web page is dynamic. And so what that means is we haven't just posted a PDF of our district adopted curriculum, but as things change and evolve or we discover other things, this website is constantly being updated on a real-time basis. So as soon as we make those changes in our backside inventory side, it gets changed for this public view as well. And this is our starting point. So as we continue to dig, we know this doesn't represent every single course, every single material in use, but as we continue to unravel all of those pieces of the previous years, it'll get updated in real time on this page. So when you click on the website, it'll magically happen. You should be able to click on that picture. There we go. So when you click on the website, you'll notice that there are 3 buckets within this website. So this first one is where we're going to start with, and that is the school board adopted curriculum. So anything within this view, and you can see that little bar to drag down is big. So this is our biggest bucket of curriculum. So as you go through, this is all adopted curriculum that you as a school board, maybe not the 5 of you sitting in the seats right now, but maybe your predecessors, or maybe some of you remember this because this looks familiar to different curriculum areas. These are all the school board adopted curriculum areas. On each of those tiles, you will see the curriculum, the subject area, the curriculum item, the implementation date, and the planned review date, as well as the vendor website. So just if you're interested in learning a little bit more, it has a website on there as well. The curriculum plan, or the review date, is something very new for us to post up. And I want to say that planned review date is a very real thing. We all have plans, and sometimes things go as planned and sometimes they don't. So for an example, for high school ELA, we use Springboard. That was adopted or implemented and adopted in the fall of 2007. And we have purchased updated versions of the Springboard curriculum since then. But in the fall of 2023, we heard from the vendor that as of June 2024, they would no longer be supporting the curriculum. We did not have a planned review date of September 1st, 2023 for Springboard, but that had to push ahead to other content areas because of that being an emergent need. So just to show you that it is a planned date, and that is kind of how we prioritize our budget associated with some of those bigger buckets, but then things happen outside of our control that we have to meet the emergent need for. The second bucket, if you continue scrolling down on the page, is other curriculum in use. So this bucket represents curriculum that is currently in use but has not gone through a formal adoption process. There's various reasons for why different pieces of curriculum are going to fit into this bucket. An example is Bridge to College Math you will see in there. If you teach and run Bridge to College Math, you only have one curriculum choice, so it doesn't make sense to go through a real robust curriculum adoption process because that is your only choice. There are some other areas that are included within this bucket that we simply just need to clean up. Spanish is a good example where we need to prioritize the formal adoption of a curriculum and need to take it through that whole process. All of these different tiles represent a bucket of money, so we have to strategically think with ensuring that we are staying tight to our budgets, that we are doing that in a timely manner. The third bucket, and the final bucket on this page, is supplemental curriculum, or supplemental materials. Those are materials that are used in conjunction with our core instructional materials. These are items that extend and support instruction. And there's various different materials in there. You'll notice enhanced core reading instruction, or ECRI, is listed in here. That is what our teachers are using to enhance and supplement our Reading Wonders curriculum at the elementary. So that's just another example of a curriculum you've heard us talk about here quite a bit, and where it's listed within this bucket. Each one of these buckets, I keep on calling them, but you'll notice right under that blue tile for supplemental materials, there's different ways that you can navigate and organize the materials. And the supplemental box isn't enormous with tons of things, but if you wanted to filter by level, then or by content area or curriculum, it'll put it all in alphabetical order. You can also use the filter tool. You can also use, there's a little magnifying glass on the top right-hand side that if you want to search for something specifically, like Reading Wonders, or you just want to put in math, it'll populate that way. So you don't need to go through all those steps right this minute. But there are different ways of finding materials, because like that first bucket is pretty long, and so you have that ability to sort it a little bit. So in conclusion, I want to reiterate that this is our starting place. We are excited to have this as our starting place. We know, again, it doesn't encompass every single material, but it's our starting place that we will continue to move forward with, and have the structure to be able to share that. I think as not only for our current educators and families within our district, but it's a great way to publicize to potential staff that are interested in coming to our district, knowing what curriculum they would be teaching, or even families, because I get questions from potential families that just want to know what we're using. So this provides a resource to that. So with that, we'll take your questions.
I'll go. Thank you both so much. I know this has been quite a labor. I won't call it of love, but of necessity. How's that? Really value, and as a visual thinker, I really appreciate there on the first slide how you talked about transparency, not just of putting up a wall of words around what Policy 2020 looks like, but actually breaking that down and making it understandable in that flow chart. I think that's really, really helpful. And likewise on this website, so we can have that visual connection of what the curriculum itself looks like. It's immensely helpful. So thank you. I know a lot of us have been waiting for a while to be able to have access to this. And I've spent a lot of time poking around at other districts' websites on their curriculum pages. And I think once this gets built out, I know this is the starting point. It's really going to be a tremendous resource. So great work. I know it's just a couple of you doing all of this. One question about, oops, sorry about that. Oh, and I was very happy to see handwriting on there. My little architect heart felt good, Yeah, we are doing handwriting. I know my daughter brought home a cursive book, and much to her chagrin, that was probably the one I took the biggest interest in. But what about, one of the things I learned at WASDA, sitting in the board curriculum presentation, was the question was brought, I think you were there with me, Chuck, about why do you have to have so many? And, what's going on, if we have our state standards, how come there's not curriculum that just directly goes to those standards? And so I'm sure you can explain it more eloquently than me since you live in that world, but I wonder if you could just touch on that.
I can start and then feel free to jump in. So Washington State is not a unique state because there are many states that are our size in similar ways. Curriculum vendors, if there was one magic curriculum vendor that did all the things, everyone across the world would be using it, right? There's no such thing. There are, like, James is going through Springboard and curriculum, and there are many different options when you're just looking at even high school ELA. Depending on how large the state, different vendors make curriculum that more closely aligns with their standards. So big states like the state of Texas or the state of California, curriculum vendors will spend a lot of money with that alignment. Washington State is not a large enough district that we get curriculum that is really customized outside of Washington State history or some of those required pieces. We as a school district have to go through that process of vetting to see of this curriculum that we have, like Envisions or, whatever it is, does it align with our Washington State standards? yes or no, and that's a pretty early step of our rubricing process. If that doesn't align, then we throw it out. But there is no magic one vendor that does it all. Otherwise, everyone in the whole country would be using it in the same way.
Yeah, I would just add, even when, obviously curriculum companies are in the business of selling curriculum, so they will say, that they align to state standards, but even sometimes through the piloting process or sometimes through implementation, we realize there are gaps in that curriculum. Reading Wonders is a good example. We're supplementing that with ECRI because it doesn't have everything that we need, and we see in our data students aren't making the type of growth that we'd like to see them make. So sometimes it's at the implementation stage, hopefully sooner in the piloting stage, that we might discover that there is a need for something to supplement, because like Natalie said, it's hard to find one curriculum that really hits every standard and meets the needs of all students.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And then kind of to follow up on that, is there any, is there any way that we'll be able to get that subdivision public facing about which pieces of each curriculum are being used, like with the standards? Man, I'm asking my question poorly.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
I got
thanks.
you. So this is again our first, we formed a new department 4 months ago.
Right.
So this is the first iteration of that work. Our long-term goals is to have our frameworks that each grade level and content area use to have be public facing as well. So the majority of our core content areas do have frameworks that were built by teachers, and that's what gets down to here in the Peninsula School District, in a Math 6 classroom. Here are our priority standards that we're focusing on. Here are the curriculum resources that we have that align to that. Here are some supplemental pieces that are used. Here are the assessments that are used. So we're working on trying to make some of those more public facing so that that's that tie. Just because we've adopted curriculum doesn't mean we use every single piece of it. And so then that tells that story of the adopted curriculum and then the elements that we use of it.
Right.
I would just add to that, also coming soon will be, there are 3 tables that we viewed today. We'll also have a 4th that talks about intervention materials, intervention curriculum. So that's what we're working on next, and we'll have that published and public facing soon too.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I also want to thank you for within sort of, since we are going to do the second read of 2020, I appreciate the time, you took with me to sort of explain what the role of that kind of separate audit committee, if you will. I kind of, in my mind, think of it like that. But I think I hope that's really going to add another layer of transparency and kind of fidelity to this process, because I think you guys probably have heard it more than anybody about some of these curriculums that have been around for a while, and they've kind of lost the story about how and why we're using them. So I really appreciate the systematic nature that we're going to be using from here on out. So thank you both very much.
One more thing.
No more things.
Yeah, can you go to slide 4, please?
Is this slide 4?
There you go, yeah. So on I get there, I tell you to go there, I need to get there. So for instance, in number 2, the rubric screening, you touched on a little bit, but you narrow the list of curriculum using rubrics that are aligned with content standards and instructional environment. You said Washington standards, but who sits in a room and develops the rubric, for instance, for the health curriculum or math? Who develops the rubric that gets it all started? Like, who do they select for that?
It depends on the curriculum area. So some bigger core curriculum areas like English, science, social studies, OSPI gives us rubrics to evaluate curriculum based on.
Okay.
And we use those rubrics. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are, OSPI is also giving us the standards, so we're working with that. In other areas like health, and I don't know off the top of my head if OSPI has a health rubric because I haven't worked on a health one yet.
Yeah.
The adoption committee, before they ever start looking at materials, in that research part, they talk through, the classroom teachers talk through, what do we need in a curriculum? What are we looking for? What is our emergent need, and what is our current curriculum not meeting? And then through that process, we would develop elements of a rubric.
Okay. So OSPI, like I'm a firm believer in local control, and I'm just wondering if OSPI gives us a rubric, do we have to stay 100% within the rubric, or do we have local control to be able to make minor modifications to those rubrics based on what we feel our community would support or not support? Do we have that kind of latitude to modify the rubric based on local control and what we feel our community would support?
I think OSBI rubrics are used as an exemplar,
Okay.
just like model policy or anything like that would be. And if the teachers identify that the rubric doesn't align with something, then they would have that autonomy.
And there are health standards. I mean, there are math standards, science standards.
The rubric.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But there's standards by which, if we offer courses, there's certain standards that we have to include.
Okay.
And all curriculum that they look at, they would be judged equitably across the board as to if they met the standards or not.
It was just a generic question about, does the committee that develops the rubric, do they have latitude to tweak it if they disagree with the OSPI rubric? That's all of my question, simple.
There's no specific language prohibiting that.
Okay.
So,
You answered it, thank you. Number 3, classroom pilot, talks about pilots are conducted in a selected classroom, and it talks about student focus group surveys. Is there any, and then it mentions family and community. What input from the pilot piece do parents have input on?
So through the pilot process, so in a perfect world, we've identified 2 curricula to pilot within our schools. So at that point, we go and we update the website and say, these are the 2 curricula that we are piloting. There's usually an ability, most curriculum's digital these days, so we give them a generic login to log in, view the curriculum, and then post to that website and a way to give feedback back to this committee. In addition to that, if I'm a classroom teacher doing a pilot in my classroom, then I'm communicating directly with the students and the families that are in my classroom and seeking input from them. And all of that data, like our collection of data from that classroom pilot process, is stacks of paper that the adoption committee comes back and looks at every single piece of paper through step 4 before reaching consensus on that decision.
Okay, and then number 4, the adoption committee. How many parents, if any, sit on the adoption committee? I know we have a parental requirement, not as many as I'd like, but there's a parental requirement to be on the IAC. But are there any parents at all that are allowed, if they wanted to sit on the adoption committee?
Previous adoptions here, we have not had parents sit in that committee, depending on the length. So this process is different depending on the curriculum. So the process for AP biology would be very different than the process for a full reading adoption at elementary. Reading adoption at elementary is probably a year and a half of a commitment for the adoption committee. And we ask the representatives, the teachers, to be there at every single meeting throughout that year and a half. So I haven't had parents who are itching to sit on a committee with us for a year and a half. And go through that process of reviewing every single curriculum, doing the, going through all the data and all of those pieces.
Okay. It's just that the WASDA legislative assemblies every year, we've really pushed hard to make sure that parent voice and parent input and family connection is valued and appreciated in children's education. I just wanted to see if there's any parents on that.
David, I would just if I could just add, I think, we've talked about at the district level, trying to be more creative and innovative in ways to get additional and more parent feedback than we have historically. And you mentioned the local level, so we've always hoped and talked about and will be implementing systems that really, at the school level, working with principals so that they can get that input from the local communities in a more robust way than we have historically. So that's something, when we go through our next adoption, that will be a focus, so we have that parent and community input.
Okay, and then the community input, you said you put the curriculum out there for community to review. I think that's great, but how many actually do you think actually go there and test it out?
So when I provided you data last spring about high school science, we can look at metrics on how many unique views we have to a specific page within the district website. And then Ashley and I also hosted community preview nights. We had hundreds of unique views of our high school science website, and we can even narrow it down to certain amounts, periods of time, and pull those metrics. We had 0 parents that showed up for our community preview Zooms.
Yeah.
So they're looking at, and we also had nobody respond to our comment. Like, we had a Google survey posted to that website for input, and nobody posted to that either. So we had lots of views on the website, but we didn't have anybody that provided input either through the Google form or came to a preview night. And nobody had reached out to our instructional facilitator doing that work either.
That's unfortunate. For the, towards the end of as far as once this goes live on the internet, yeah, I know you said people will be able to dive into it. I know, and I want to address that layers piece, because I know that over the years, the Flash curriculum has been really controversial. And so looking at the middle school Flash, will the health curriculum for elementary school also be posted online?
It's on there. So Flash is the middle school piece. No is what we use at in 5th grade.
Yeah, I'm just saying I see that for the middle school, but will the elementary school health be posted for?
Yeah, it's
okay, thank you. I was looking for it, I just missed it.
There's a lot of tiles.
There's a lot of tiles. Okay, so, and the reason I asked is that, will a parent that has concern around health, for reasons we all are aware, will they be able to click in here and see the curriculum, the actual full curriculum? And the reason I say that is that over the years, we've had people that say, you're teaching this, you're teaching this, you're teaching this. And actually, we're not, because of the fact, what you just said, and I've had conversations with John about this over the years, that we teach pieces of a certain curriculum that might be this big, but we don't teach all of it. Well, what we show only what we're teaching and not the breadth of stuff that potentially some school district might be, but we're not.
So the link of what's on that tile in front of you is the link to the full curriculum.
Okay.
We have a separate page on our district website for just health that is specific to everything that is taught in elementary and middle school specific to health. And so that is where a parent would go to see exactly what would be taught in those areas.
All right.
And then again, I would encourage folks to talk to their child's teacher and, have that communication of what is being taught. We do have a requirement to give a 30-day notice prior to that being taught. And so having that conversation with the principal and the teacher is the best avenue to go through.
Okay, one more thing.
Yeah.
If a school board wanted to change a curriculum, what's the process for that? They said, we don't agree with this curriculum, how would a board go about that?
Step 1.
I don't know.
I'm going to take a stab at this. I think we would, if there was a curriculum that you had an objection to and wanted to see a different curriculum in place, I'd imagine we'd start this process and kind of start at step 1 and review other potential options and go through that process of examining, say it was an ELA curriculum, what other curricula might be out there, go through the rubric screening, pilot, and go through that process to get to the point where the board would be asked to approve a different curriculum.
So may I also jump in? So, glibly, you did say
see Ashley, but the cost of doing a curriculum, a complete curriculum review. And so if we used elementary ELA as an example, so could you just ballpark the cost of, if we decided this curriculum is not working and in a year we'd like to purchase this, not just the curriculum, but also the professional development for all of those staff, and the ability to do that? I know,
Yeah.
I see you taking a big breath,
no.
but I would like you to just throw out some numbers.
Yeah.
We know that it's approximate right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you look at these tiles, you see a lot of anticipated review dates that are coming, or 2023, 2024. So that's something we've been looking at and talking about as a team in terms of prioritizing and budgeting, and we'll be working with Ashley on that. So Natalie's been doing the research on the reading curriculum, so I'll let her speak to that.
But I think it's important to put out the money. So curriculum, new curriculum, and then professional development. So like, what would we be looking at if we were looking at elementary?
$1.8 million.
So so if the board decided, okay, so we want to do X, then we have to say $1.8 million has to be available for professional development and materials. And that would be one tile, right? So, thank you.
Somewhat related to that, well, let me start by saying thank you so much for all of this. I know whenever the board asks for something, it is usually at a great cost of, a lot of work for someone somewhere else. And so I really appreciate even just this slide alone is so helpful to people everywhere, I would assume, to know who's got in charge of what. But toward that, just when I was marveling at how lovely this is and how the board's role is not what most people think it is in this process, but your question is an interesting one because, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, certainly there's times always the board might feel really strongly about anything that we would ask someone looks into something. Could be, why is there so few chips in the nachos, or whatever, right? And then that starts a whole lot of work for somebody. But isn't it the case that this is why the board adoption is number 6? It's very uncommon for the board to be step number 1. Sure. Isn't that the point, sort of this? So that doesn't happen, or hardly ever, right? What we were just discussing.
Right, I think it is part and parcel of the need for the board to know and prioritize the budget, because the budget really is under your purview, and to know that if and when, because all of those tiles need to be looked at, and you don't just adopt. What you will see through the tiles, if you could flip that back up, is that they were adopted a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And there are many of them that were adopted and not many recently, especially large ones, have been adopted. So I think it is part and parcel of conversation about being responsive to today's students with today's best materials around that. And then keeping in mind that any moving lever initiates work on the district part, and it takes time because we want to get it right the next time, right?
Of course.
As right as we can be right now with the materials and the standards that we have right now.
We have quite a bit, as you can see, of catching up to do, and I think some of that dates back as we've dug into it. Again, a new team, but as we look historically speaking, some of it dates back to the recession where there may have been curriculum adoptions planned, but then from a budget perspective, we just couldn't do it at that time. So this is, 10, 15 years ago, and there's some curriculum areas that are in dire need, and teachers will tell us that, and we're going to have to prioritize and budget where and how to address those first and what first and foremost. So finding out, again, not having a system historically either has been problematic, and finding out when a curriculum was adopted, just to be perfectly transparent, was challenging at times. Like I said, we want to develop a system that's sustainable, and when we're long gone, someone will be able to look at this and say, oh, such and such a curriculum was adopted in 2024, and the planned review date is 2028, whatever it might be. In some cases, Tanya had to go down to the basement at ESC and dig through boxes to check. So we have work to do, and we know that, and this is just kind of a starting point.
Thank you. I love the curriculum page on the website, and look forward to just really being able to look deeper into that later. But the reason I love it is because even as much as we know about curriculum, if you don't, and I'm sure I speak for every parent in the district, if you don't have you may have a child in the district, but they're not in every grade simultaneously, and so it's very difficult to even manage what the curriculum is for each level and whatnot. So I love this and the way it's laid out. I do notice, again, some of these are very old and needing updated, but some of these curriculum have no planned review date. And are some of these ones that there's no other option, maybe?
In some cases, that's the case. In the other cases, sometimes they're aligned. It depends on the content area. Sometimes they are aligned to district standards. Sometimes, like STEM Scopes, I didn't put a planned review date. It is our newest elementary curriculum, and it is so far down the road that I just don't feel like it's worth putting a date on at this time, because there's so many more emergent needs in front of it. So yeah, it depends on the curriculum areas. Sometimes, again, like AP classes, college and the high school, we don't have an opportunity. They tell us what we need to teach in the curriculum, so there's no reason to put a planned review date, because College Board will tell us, or UW will tell us, this is our new text and you need to use it. So individual circumstances.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is another whole other ball of wax. Yes, yeah. I think if James were here, he could speak to that. But I mentioned that soon to come intervention materials. But yes, CTE also, and frameworks and all of that will be something that we'll be working on also. Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I understand something correctly. There are some board adopted curriculum on here that might look really old, like it was adopted maybe in 2004, but that vendor has since updated it, and we don't have to go through the full adoption process, correct? So it might not be that this is 20 years old. It's been updated throughout the years. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay. I love the deliberation. Some, not all.
Yeah, except for handwriting.
Okay. No, they did. Okay. Well, again, thank you. I've said this before, but oftentimes we ask our staff for some information, and for this one we said, hey, can we pull together something that I ignorantly thought was going to be pretty easy ask, just a review of all of the curriculum that we have so we can see it, when was it adopted, and it was a huge task. And as always, you have presented it in a way that far exceeds any expectation, and I appreciate you embracing the transparency and wanting to be very forthcoming with our families and make it really easy for them to navigate this. And I think, Natalie, you made a great point. People are looking, I wasn't even thinking about, hey, do I want to teach that if I work in this district? That's a fantastic point. And also, I would have looked on here and kind of previewed what you were teaching before I selected this district as well. So excellent work. Thank you. I'm looking forward to building it out. And I love that it is a living document. So there's no old PDFs linked to things that we don't use anymore. That would not be helpful. All right, I think that's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9, old business. We have a few second readings of policy. So some policy adoptions this evening, and the first one is 6550. This is related to the capitalization threshold for leases and subscription-based information technology arrangements. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 9.1?
I move to approve item 9.1.
Okay, second. It has been moved by Jennifer and seconded by David to approve item 9.1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Item 9.1 has been approved. Okay, item 9.2, policy revision, second reading of policy 5252, employee participation in political activities. Is there any discussion prior to the vote?
I would just like to say thank you for making the changes that I asked for at the last school board meeting. Thank you. I'd make a motion to approve 9.2.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve item 9.2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Item 9.2 has been approved. Item 9.3, policy adoption, second reading of 5515. This is a new policy related to workforce secondary traumatic stress. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 9.3?
I'll make a motion to approve 9.3.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Chuck and seconded by Jennifer to approve item 9.3. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 9.3 has been approved. Item 9.4, policy revision. This is the second reading of policy 2020, course design, selection, and adoption of instructional material. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? I'll just say thank you for the clarification on this policy and procedure. Is there a motion to approve item 9.4?
I'll move to approve item 9.4.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Go with Lori. It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 9.4 is approved. Fantastic. Item 10, new business. Item 10.1 is change order number 13 from Absher Construction at Evergreen Elementary Project. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve item 10.1?
I make a motion to approve 10.1.
Is there a second? It's been moved by David and seconded by Chuck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Item 10.1 has been approved. Item 10.2 is policy revision. This is the first reading, so we're not taking action on this. This is policy 3122, excused and unexcused absences, and the corresponding procedure 3122. I will only just say our high school seniors should probably read this as well. Those who are rolling into second semester seem to have a little bit of trouble with this one, but this is, like I said, related to absences. So no action on this. Item 10.3, we have board committee reports. Does anyone have a committee?
Yeah, I do. It's okay. I just want to talk a little bit about the, as a legislative rep, the legislative committee technically, I guess. Last week, Superintendent Barr and I attended the South Sound Superintendent legislative briefing, which we were able to have legislative members from Pierce County. We were fortunate to have Spencer Hutchins sit with our table, and there were other legislatures from around the district and the counties, and there was also a state senator briefing us or in the group. So one of the things that we're looking forward to as Pierce County legislative body, the areas that we really wanted to focus on in Olympia. They have a short session this time, so they're only going to be there for 60 days. So they're going to be really, grinding out quick, long days, trying to knock things out so they can hit the campaign trail, go start raising money. But one of the things we talked about was around prototypical school model, what that looks like, how that might change as far as what the cost of providing safe and good schools and good learning environments. We talked about the state increasing funding for student to classified staff ratios, where right now the state, the board knows that the state pays for funding for school teachers, but they don't pay for paras and they don't pay for classified and other stuff. So we have to pay for that out of our levy. And so one of the things that they're trying to do, which is a pie in the sky probably, but to have the state also pay for those positions out of the state budget so that we don't have to pull from the levy. So that's one of the things where, so that would free our levy up for more important things like, I don't know, curriculum. I was going to say curriculum, or our sports and athletics and arts and supplies and things like that we might Certainly, that would be great if they did it. Another one was talking about transportation funding formula, and, you know, they fund transportation for us, or as the crow flies, and we have a unique school district where the bus has got a long drive, circuitous route all the way down, and we're really, districts across the state are really in a funding situation right now about, or lack of staff, you know, from school bus drivers. We're not the only district that's hurting for that. So one of the things I talked about was, do we want to move towards electric buses, where I talked about, we heard a recent conversation around transportation on that, how great the propane buses were, and that what are they going to do for charging a bus, you know, when it has to go to Portland or some out-of-state sport event? How are they going to stop and recharge a school bus, you know, and then if the battery breaks, a battery will cost more than a bus. So we talked about funding buses that, again, they want to revise the student transportation funding model to fully cover the actual cost of student transportation. So that was one of the ones. And include all costs related to transportation employee benefits mandated by the state. Okay. Another one was regionalization funding. We know that after the levy swap, you know, they did a regionalization, and some school districts got a plus up for how much money they get, and others didn't. And so I think that's going to eventually, a couple years from now, and that's going to see a pretty big change, and that could really negatively impact this school district. So, you know what, that's on that, or just let it go for another day. Okay. I knew you were going to do that. Okay, the thing for me that was really the most difficult part was there's a piece called Clean Building Compliance Funding. And this is another one of the legislative's lovely unfunded mandate that has to do with clean schools. And although we thought the people in the room that night, we think it's important that we have clean schools, they're requiring that school districts do an audit to have all their schools audited for these standards, these health standards. And one school district, I don't remember which one, but that doesn't matter, she said just to complete the audit would cost over $600,000. And she said that audit alone would definitely require them to cut staff. Okay, I know that it would cost this school district over $250,000 just to complete the audit. Okay, then when you get the audit finding, then you have to get your buildings into compliance to meet this ridiculous requirement. Okay, and so then, depending on how many schools you have, I mean, it could cost millions of dollars to fix each school to bring them up to compliance. And that just seems unrealistic in today's financial climate. You know, we talked about 1.8 million to bring in a new curriculum. We could bring multiple millions to bring a school building up to compliance, you know. And if you break into the schools or into the walls, doesn't that mean we have to bring that up to other code compliance as well? So it's really a negative impact. So one of the, you know, I mentioned it to the group, and I said to me, and I mentioned it to Spencer and to Creston, that there's a fine up to $1 million for not complying to it. But it actually makes sense. Another school superintendent said this in the meeting. It would make more sense just to not do it and pay the $1 million fine every year, because it would be cheaper to pay the fine than to bring the buildings up to code. So we're hoping that they'll revisit this. Do you want to say anything about that, or did I do a decent job on that?
You did an excellent job about that, and that is something that I think that the public does not know. It completely is an unfunded mandate, and it's directly onto the local taxpayers. And we collect what we can for our levy. We have no ability to collect more, nor should we. I had a conversation with some people that do this work, and I told them that right now we were just not happy about it, and we were not willing to, after last year, right-sizing for $12 million, investing $250,000 into doing an audit. And so had a really good conversation. Actually, we're going to revisit at no cost for a further conversation. So I have committed to that. I don't know where Patrick is, but haha, Patrick. But I said I'm not going to pay money right now for this. I do know that some smaller school districts have received grants, but they're talking about like $25,000, and they've received grants in order to do an audit. Again, our school district has not been offered, or we have not seen grants that would go towards this at this time.
Right. And we had a full audience earlier, and this is really important, and they're not going to hear it. But so what the legislative reps from the Pierce County School Districts and the superintendents were talking about or would like to see is a significant amount of the capital projects, capital gains tax be allocated towards doing this kind of work, okay? Last year, this year, Natalie and Kristen and I were in Olympia meeting with our legislators, and one of them asked us around some of this capital stuff, would you support a capital gains tax to pay for some of the stuff you're looking for to be done in your school district? And I said no. And because years ago they said the lottery was going to pay for it was all going to go to education, right? All. And none of it hardly goes to education anymore. They redirected those funds to other prep projects. Then marijuana, cannabis, was going to go to schools, and they redirected that to their other pet projects. So if you remember, we said, nope, we don't support that, because yes, you might do it the first year, but then you're going to redirect all that. So we were just saying we'd like to see the state put a substantial piece of the capital gains tax, if it was to actually pass, towards this capital stuff for the schools. So that was it. Go ahead.
It's actually a good segue, because for a committee report, I just had last Friday my last OSPI capital projects, what do we have, 4 times a year meeting. So this was actually the last one that I'm gonna, so I've been on that committee as the Western Washington WASDA rep for the last 2 years now. So this department, so it's through the Department of Commerce, and really they call it clean buildings, but it's a little bit of a misnomer, because it really is about energy use. And so it's trying to build, they're really targeting that aging buildings, no surprise, have single pane windows that leak, and they have old HVAC systems, and they have, if any insulation in the wall, it's very thin. So the idea, the concept behind this was to bring old buildings up to a better energy use performance than they are right now. Obviously, that's a huge price tag. So this actually has been an ongoing topic since the law passed with this OSPI Capital Projects Group, and where that money is coming from. And what you're saying is correct. There have been grants through Department of Commerce for kind of early adopters, but they've been very small. But what was interesting on Friday in the Zoom meeting was we had a presentation from a master's student at UW who did basically just completed her thesis work on building assessments and building age, and using the tool that OSBI has developed called the ICOS, which is the Inventory and Condition of Schools, how to build that out in a more robust and meaningful way, so that things like understanding what your EUI, your energy use index for your schools would be, and finding some sort of not qualitative, but like based on certain ages of buildings and based on certain ages of HVAC systems, having a way to sort of standardize across the state a list of a prioritization list, if you will, right, of where different buildings are. Obviously, that is a massive undertaking, because when you think about, just look at our district, right? So we've got some brand new state-of-the-art buildings like this, and then you've got things like Peninsula High School, where it's a campus plan. So you don't have one building, you have 7 or 8 buildings, all built at different times, all with varying levels of systems and things in them. Some of which may meet the performance standards, some which may not. And so it's just this gigantic can of worms. There has not been any public discussion about exempting schools or exempting public agencies or exempting anyone, but there has been a lot of talk, at least in this group, about ways in which the state will do a better job partnering with like public agencies and schools to be able to, make those done. So, yeah, like for the ICOs, for example, when they do those assessments, those are actually students from Washington State that come out and do it, and the state pays a lot of times for those assessments. So I don't know any more than that, other than that it is, at this point, publicly still an unfunded mandate, but I know that's top of mind for everybody involved.
Jennifer, can I ask you, in that group, is there ever been a discussion about the lack of bonds, school bonds, construction bonds, recently, that have not passed?
Well, yeah, that was the entire kind of crux of the master's thesis, was that the funding model is broken, right? That, like, this idea of shared responsibility, which is what the recent lawsuit, the Wahkiakum School District lawsuit, Supreme Court upheld this notion of shared responsibility, but really, in practice, what it is, it's executed in a way that makes it the bulk of that responsibility on the local district, right? You have to pass a bond before you can access those funds. Right. And so I was just checking, they're going to send us all the PowerPoint that was presented, but it's really, really compelling because it basically traces through kind of historical data on all 200 school districts and shows what the average age of the school buildings are. And then it also shows there's probably 5 or 6 different maps, sort of where their passage rates have been of bonds and the degree to which then they were able to access state money, right, in the way that we were able to do it. And what kind of the takeaway is that you've got of rural small school districts that can't pass bonds, period. And even if they could, they do not have enough taxable value within their whole district to even rebuild their school. So, it doesn't even matter the 60% threshold. They could get 100% support and they still can't fix their schools. Yeah. Layer onto that the way in which that the state funding is accessed, and what they were able to trace were that you have increasingly less districts able to access bigger portions of that state money. So in effect, the districts that need it the least are the ones who are getting the most of the state funding by virtue of the way that the mechanics are set up in our state. Yeah. And that all plays directly to this, because there's no way in many districts you're going to be able to do any of this type of improvement without running a bond. Yeah. All that to say is there's a lot of people working on it, so it's certainly a time to be, I don't envy that work, because there's a lot of very strong and differing opinions on where that goes. But I do know that from the perspective of a lot of the smaller districts, there is an appetite to look less to another round of lawsuits and more to a legislative solution using the data from this ICOS tool and being able to more accurately sort of prioritize projects and make state funding available for ones that are just in dire need.
Yeah, and there was no one in the room, just to be clear, there was no one in the room that said they don't support that these schools need to be updated and be healthy. Right. It's just, one of the things that this school district and others have been dealing with for 10 years I've been on board is, another unfunded mandate. And we've gone to the legislature all the time saying, you're giving us unfunded mandates that make it hard for us to comply. Why don't you pay for this? And so, and there was a discussion about the bond threshold. And, I don't support a 50% bond threshold, but I do support 55. And, we were talking to Senator, what's his name? Conway. And that if the two sides could come to the middle and meet at 55, that could probably pass. For 55, it probably won't pass at 50. And the reason I disagree with it is just that when you go out to the committee and you ask for a $600 million bond to build a huge new high school, that's a huge ask of your community, and it's going to increase taxes. And I just think you should have a super majority that say they support it when you're asking for so much money. But I support 55, and I know a lot of people that do. It'd be nice that the state legislature would start having a more robust conversation around that number.
David, I would just add that I think that there were very few legislators that understood that concept of what we were talking about and the fact that that was out of the Department of Commerce, and that seemed to be new information for them. So I think it was a really valuable meeting. And, you know, as we learn more, we should be able to share more. Yeah.
Well, but thank you for going to committee reports. Yeah, thank you all for that, for bringing that information to us. Chuck, do you have anything from Arts Committee? Have you met or?
There was a meeting while I was gone to the conference for the Arts Committee.
Oh, okay.
But the only thing I want to comment on is Key Peninsula Middle School Choir came out to the Key Center Christmas tree lighting, and it was just great to see arts out in our community. I'm sure there'll be more coming out of the arts.
I have one more just for the CPAC. That's great. So we had the first Special Education Parent Advisory Committee Parent Education Series, which had a pretty good turnout. I should have gotten an exact number, but certainly a couple dozen folks were in the room. And it was on a topic it was called IEP 101, and it was a sort of a repeat but refinement of a presentation done last year. And I just really would like to commend the staff for putting that presentation together. There are a few things more intimidating and opaque than an IEP process. And having been through it myself for a relatively benign intervention, I can only imagine and empathize with parents who are going through a lot of that with their children that have more complex and higher needs. So I really just want to commend the staff for being really forthcoming about that. And then at the end for fielding some pretty tough questions. Some pretty tough questions from parents, but they didn't shy away. And I think that's really important for building trust and for building communication. I really look forward, and I encourage anybody. I mean, the parent education series are exactly that. They're open to everybody. So anybody is welcome to come. You don't have to be a member of the core committee. They also took effort to record it, and that's going to be posted on the website. And that's another plug for, I don't know if you've looked at the special education page on our district website now, but it is really a fantastic resource. It went from last year having basically a couple links to OSPI to now having a tremendous amount of research or resources and explanations and flow charts, and complete with a contact list of all of the special education teachers in the district, where they teach, what they're teaching, and it really is fantastic. Again, to your point, Natalie, one of those where, we kind of make an ask as a board, hey, can you put some more stuff on the website? And it really just exceeded expectations. So I hope now it's really quite meaningful and useful to parents and to families. And I just, thank the staff for their hard work around that. It's a very challenging, area to be working in, considering what happened at the legislature this year with special education funding. But we have educators every day working so hard and putting kids first, and it really was heartening to see. So.
Okay. Item 11 is superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank the 3 board members for serving one more round, so I appreciate that, and thank the community for supporting our school board of director. It's very important to have that continuity in order to build a wonderful experience for children, which you heard many, many portions of that. I'm going to start this evening with a concern about transportation. We have really been able to dodge what other school districts have been ongoing. It has been an ongoing issue. But the Peninsula School District has not been spared from the national school bus driver shortage. I'm reading off a portion of the letter that has gone out or will be going out shortly. We have been doing everything that we can to transport our students daily and not having disruptions, hiring our substitute drivers and consolidating routes where possible. It has become very apparent that we may have to temporarily cancel some routes. This is a very, very serious decision that was made. And I know that I'm not happy. I know that parents aren't happy. I know that my own grandchildren in other school districts have also experienced this. We will continue to assess what routes can be covered based on driver ability and availability. We want to thank our community and families and say that we recognize that this is disruptive and it is not the best situation. But we understand, thank you for understanding the challenges resulting from a bus driver shortage, as well as routine absences from seasonal illnesses, because this is the season where people are coming down with illnesses. PSD, Peninsula School District, is still hiring full-time and part-time bus drivers. It is a process, though. You can't just go in like tomorrow and bam, you're a bus driver. It is a process. It's a multi-week process, and there are checks and balances along the way. No experience, however, is required other than wanting to drive children, and paid training is provided. So please, if people are listening or the board, please spread the urgent need. We have an urgent need for additional bus drivers. We want to get all of our students to and from school each and every day. And you saw all of our athletes. Remember, there are bus drivers behind getting them to and fro, all the way to C teams. And this is a busy time of year where we have a lot of athletics. We have middle school athletics. But we remain committed to running as many bus routes as possible. So I promised that I would read that. I know that I am very concerned about that as well. I know that every superintendent that I've met nationally, it is an ongoing problem. So if there are people out there that want to work with and for kids, it is a rocking department. They won the welcome back. They had so much pep and support. It's really a great thing, especially if you're retired and you still want to wake up early, you get up early, come and drive kids. Come and drive children. But seriously, please contact the Transportation Department at 253-530-3900, and we will return your call. We will be applying for the Purple Star. It came out, the application came out, and I said, oh my goodness. So I've looked through the application, and John, we're going to hammer it out, and John, we're going to hammer it out tomorrow because I think it's pretty short. We just need to do some designations of who and what. So I'm looking forward to that. And that will be the first time ever. So if we are not designated the first year, we will try again. I wanted to say that Chris Hagel and I just scooted in like 5 minutes before the board meeting. We were invited to speak at a national superintendent conference, and the title of our conference speech was Innovations in School Renovation, Community Engagement, and AI Integration. And we had approximately, I think there were about 65 people there, and they were from all over the nation. And we started with our conversation about sister cities and Buddha and the metaverse. And then we talked about our new buildings and the ability to deliver to the community we went out for 4, we delivered 6, and the ability to bring in new technology and then layer in that on with our AI work. artificial intelligence and the work really that the staff did, that the teachers wrapped their arms around, along with our technology, and that we went out for a focus on education. And so we had multiple people. I can't tell you how many people came up. They were very, very impressed. And they really said that Peninsula School District is a national leader in this. So I want to thank Chris. I want to thank all of the staff that has participated. I want to thank our community for saying yes to bonds. That did make a difference, and that really set us up for having places where children are really able to be innovative and creative. And so it was really a fun activity. And it was 5 o'clock at night. It was 5 o'clock somewhere, and they all stayed. And so it was great. So thank you for supporting that, and thank you for allowing us to go and brag on our school district. I also want to say that last week, as well as next week, I'll be meeting with the Hunt Institute on the Path Forward group all around literacy. And it was interesting being at a national conference with other superintendents and having them talk about it. Like in California, there were grants of multiple $1 million over multiple years, where literacy coaches were funded out of the state, new curriculum was funded out of the state, and professional development for the teachers was funded out of the state, as well as other states. So please know that those topics I will be talking about. That's why it's important, I think, that the community know and understand, if we did want a new curriculum, this is how much it would cost. And you just don't buy books. You have to have professional development ongoing for that entire year. So next week, I just want to thank Carol for her sponsorship with the NEA. Dr. NEA is probably here tonight, coming in tonight on the plane for this awesome weather. But I will be meeting with him as well over the 2 days, but really, this is a pretty amazing grant, and the amount of funds to be able to really galvanize a whole staff, a whole teaching force to talk about what staff wellness is, should extend also for all of our staff, regardless of where they are. And I know that's a shared commitment that Carol and I have talked about, but I'm really looking forward to him. He's going to be out talking with staff and seeing what they're doing in the school, and then taking that back for a national report. And we know that report's going to be really good. So thank you for that. I know Carol's a little excited. Next week, I have a superintendent student advisory, where we are bringing all 3 of our high schools together, and we're really talking about 2 buckets. The first feedback that you will receive eventually, after we're done with it, is the YMCA is actually going to come in and model a listening circle, and we are going to talk about the cell phone policy. And so we will be getting some deep feedback so that we will be able to give that back to you. So thinking about how that policy has impacted students. And then the second part that we are looking at is the state of play. So the state of play data that came through, and I think I sent all of you that raw data. We have Peninsula data. And it's interesting because if you look at the data, we're going to have high school students, but they're going to talk about what the middle school students said. And so we have a variety of different pieces that we are going to have the students talk about. So we know that we're going to get student voice. We don't know exactly, but we know that it will be authentic. So we're looking forward to that as well. You never know when you have these things, but it's really important. I appreciated tonight's speaker talking about belonging, because that belonging data, I was actually with multiple superintendents all over the nation, and they were all saying that their high schools were seeing very low numbers, and how to move that needle. And is what we're actually asking the students something that makes sense? Are they taking that test? Is it too long? Like being really, and I think we as a board have had that conversation as well. So really looking at the tool, because we know that whatever we ask students, if it doesn't make sense to them, or so we want to make sure that we're asking the right questions. So that will be part of next week, is really talking with the kids, also talking about the panorama assessment and does it make sense to them. So no, we have had that conversation. No, we have. I just want to thank John and James and Chris and Natalie and probably others. Thank the teaching and learning department for really coming together and producing some amazing things. I have never seen the level. I've always seen a list of curriculum, but I've never seen the ability to be able to dive in, go to the website, and all of the curriculum and separating it out with board adopted and supplemental. And I was very happy to see that the Campbell book is on there for AP Biology, because that is the best book, but it's been around for a while, right? And so it gets updated. So, and I think with that, the only last thing I would say legislatively that is on my mind, and we didn't really talk about it, David, but I did want to raise it. We will be losing another 1% with our losses staff mix. Last year, so we were going to lose 2%, and we were able to stay it with just having like a 1% loss. We're going to lose that other 1% next year. And so that's something that I hope that we will have a conversation about as well. Okay, and thank you.
Thank you. It is a busy time of year. Okay, so last up we have our board discussion and comments. Who wants to start? All right, I'll start. Lori?
Yeah, just a couple of things. We've all, since we last had a meeting, been to the WASDA conference and had, I think, some really good sessions, but also some really good conversations, and it's a good time for networking with other boards and seeing what challenges and what successes other districts are having. So I enjoyed that time with you all. It's a real honor to be reelected to the school board, and I appreciate the opportunity to keep serving for another 4 years. So just wanted to say that, and it's a pleasure to serve with the four of you as well. So the transportation thing, it's heartbreaking and frustrating and all of those things. I also work for a transportation company, technically, and I'm not going to say we haven't had a time or two over the years, which this is just the all-time worst thing that can happen when your job is to transport people. Because of staffing, we've had to cancel a flight. There's just no other way to do it, but it's never good, and it feels unfair, and someone will be impacted and no one is happy about it. And so I just wanted to empathize with, that whole situation all around is just not good. And again, what's the phone number? Anyway, anyone who would be interested in driving a bus, that would be outstanding. And along that, yes, 253-530-3900. We will hire you and then train you. Is that not true? And along the same lines, I saved this for my comments instead of, it's not really a committee report, but I am on a WIAA District 3 board, and we met yesterday. And just this ongoing, also nationwide shortage of officials in pretty much every sport. And I did go to a session about this also at WASDA, and the stats, which I don't have in front of me, but are just stunning regarding officials who, like 80% of officials quit within 1 year of starting. And as you may not be surprised to hear, many of them cite fan and parent behavior as the #1 reason why it's not a sustainable place to be. And that is really terrible and sad, but also, to state the obvious, it makes it impossible to staff these contests. And it's heartbreaking because you saw tonight how the kids they thrive, and it provides just so much, any kind of a team you can belong to and participate in something that is challenging, and the competition. Anyway, so again, I have no phone number, but if you know anyone, and I meant to say this to the student athletes themselves, as they have free time, as they get older, to volunteer to be an official. And there are actually districts that are, I need to get more information, so don't quote me on, I don't have the facts on how they did this, but there are a few districts around the state, which I thought was interesting, who are giving a CTE credit for an officiating type class. And they're obviously, I mean, I would assume they're not having, 16-year-olds officiating contests of their peers, but I believe that they are training them with the basics of what each sport looks like and the rules and the whatnot, so that they can then go forward when they're of an appropriate age to look into that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really, that's fantastic, because my nephews are both referees up in the shoreline area, and I mean it's great money, right? Especially for for our teenagers. And then you combine that and you think, okay, well, I can take this wherever I go, right? So he's a junior in high school, is going on to college. There's always a need, right, for reffing, and for if you can do soccer, and in his case, he does soccer and basketball. So, but the trade-off is real, because I know my brother, he has never gone and felt nervous for his child to play, but he's gone to every single one of his matches where he is a ref, and he is sharking on the sidelines, and I'd like to think that it's risen in awareness now with our I'm just thinking like our local clubs, and I appreciate Harbor Soccer, I think, does a really nice job. They put signs up and stuff about code of conduct, and these refs are kids and this is a game, and but it's a challenge. It's a challenge, and it's all of us right here, right? It's not the kids.
Right, for sure. And last thing to mention, the board got the most lovely invitation to attend a plant sale. I believe it was a bazaar. It was marketed as a plant bazaar, and also did any of you go to the actual later when they taught about, well, I'll finish saying what it was, from the options program at Goodman Middle School, and it was, the students had written the invitation and invited us all to come, and so I was able to go on just this last Friday, and they had, using a greenhouse that they now had learned to grow different plants, and they had put them together, and they had, like, each student was, you'd say, like, I'm Lori and I studied the cactus, and so I have this variety of cacti available for sale, and they knew all these answers to questions, and there was a scavenger hunt, and it was awesome. I could not have been more impressed, and just they were engaged and really excited to tell you about their plant, and very knowledgeable, and I'll save some for you guys to share, but I forgot to mention this, but I may have invited them to come to the next board, to a board meeting in the future. So, and they were excited to do that. Maybe whatever that's going to look like, I don't know yet, but I'm very excited. So that was a great. I loved being invited, but also it was just fantastic way to see. Just a really clever and fun and creative way to learn a whole bunch of things, and then you pay with cash, and then they had to figure out change, and and it was really cool. So that's all.
Okay, we'll just go down the line. David?
Oh, you're not next?
No.
Already talked about the South Sound Legislative Conference. She already mentioned WASDA, which was nice to get to go out there, like she said, network with school board members across the state, and also superintendents and other folks that, vendors and stuff like that. So that was nice. And as you said, to get to hang out with the board, and a little more camaraderie, since we don't get to go out much together, outside of school board meetings and retreats. 2 weeks ago, just before the WASA conference, I had the opportunity to speak at the Pacific Research Institute conference, and I was asked to speak specifically around school district budgets and strategic plan. And so there was probably 60 newly elected school board members from around the state, plus maybe another 20 or 30 school board members in the room. And so I was on a panel, and so I spoke my presentation. I didn't actually have a presentation. I just spoke about how we were able to identify a budget ahead of time, that we were going to have problems with the budget based on losing ESSER dollars and with the pandemic money, and we identified it early, that how our CFO and our senior staff worked with the teachers union, the various bargaining units, to lay the groundwork to how to assess that. But then I also talked about how everything that we did was through the lens of our strategic plan. And then the conversation actually morphed away from the budget and started talking about how we started, how we sat down, how we did the brainstorming about the strategic plan, lots of sticky notes, and how to change. And then we spent 6 hours on just one sentence, but it felt like that anyway. And I just talked about how we built our vision and our mission, and how we did our core values and the 4 C's or 5 C's of the compass, and just really started laying that out. And I said, then we got a new board member. You wouldn't imagine how much difference that makes, just have one new difference of opinion, and we spent all day changing everything on that. But so it was a really good conversation, and then I probably spent 20 minutes just answering questions about how'd you do this, what about this, what about this. So it actually was really a great conversation, and all about the strategic plan. And then I was invited to speak again at a different event, also only on the strategic plan, and I spoke again how we did it. And then I've been asked by another board member from another school district to also talk to them about how we started and how we brought together. And the people at these conferences, especially the big people that they'd flown in, said, you can tell the Peninsula School District really cares about their strategic plan, and how, because it's on our front page of our website. So it was cool. It had very positive effects, and I'm really proud that happy that I attended that conference. And so I spoke to the budget and I left. So, okay, thank you.
Just a couple other things since we last met. Preston mentioned in your presentation with Chris Hagel about AI, artificial intelligence in the classroom, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Chris and Joy Giovannini and the whole team that did the AI for All for American Education Week, and I hope people got a chance to go to that. It was tremendous. I mean, I thought I had a little bit of an idea of what we were doing based on what Chris has shared us, but I had no idea the breadth and the extent to which the sort of that cohort group of teachers who came in and really were looking at ways that to integrate and use AI strategically in our classroom. The statement of values around AI and the acknowledgement that this is so fast and it is emerging technology. I mean, I just thought that was such a thoughtful and pragmatic way to approach how are we going to wrestle with this great unknown. And then the way that the whole thing was set up, right? That we had a little bit of an overview, and then we were able to go into classrooms and actually have some of these tech guys sit right next to you, and if you've never used any of the tools, they walked you through using it. And I was cracking up because I had Miriam from the chamber behind me going, oh my gosh, it just did this, and just hearing the reactions of folks was amazing. And I sounded the same way, because I was just, the amount of knowledge that we have employed in this district is amazing, and people we don't even know because they're behind the scenes half the time. But a chance to get them to shine, and then to see it go into a classroom and see within a social studies class how it's being used. Because the big fear that you hear is kids are going to use it to cheat on their papers, and it's like, okay, well, we've addressed that with the middle school teachers in ways in which you actually can use this tool to enhance and improve and challenge yourself, right? And no, you're not going to be able to get away with using it to write your paper. But in fact, you can use it to help evaluate your paper in a really meaningful way. And then seeing these middle school kids, what really keyed me was the brainstorming, the help with brainstorming, right? So they were looking at these topics around turning points in history. And that's such a broad topic, but we've all sat there with a blank sheet of paper. And it's like, holy smokes, how do I even start? And then to watch them go through that iteration of feeding their general interests into into the AI and getting a little bit of feedback, and then being able to instantly do a little quick dive into what that looks like. Oh no, and then back out and go again, go down another topic. The way to which they were able to customize and come up with each of them very unique topics around, around the prompt was amazing to watch. I mean, it really was. And like with that, with having their topic areas now speaking to something that is personally interesting to them, I would imagine by extension their learning they're gonna be more engaged, right? They're going to want to dive deeper into it because they've found a topic with the assistance of the AI that actually speaks to them. So it was fantastic. So great job and to everyone on that. And then I really loved the comment. We had a parent there who is in business development, and he works with Boeing, works with a lot of big companies, and he said, you've heard Peninsula School District is ahead of other school districts, and he upped it and said, you're ahead of a lot of industry with the way that you have your professionals that are using it and really thinking of how to employ it very specifically. So that was a pretty high praise. The plant sale went to it. I just missed you, Lori. It was so awesome for all the reasons you said. And just another shout out to our community partners too that supported that. So the Peninsula Schools Education Foundation that provided that grant money to get that off and running. And then the Sunnycrest Nursery out on the Key Peninsula that the students were able to go and visit, and they donated all the bulbs and things that were for sale. So it was just such a beautiful example of what a robust program supported, that our teachers envisioned, and then our community came alongside to support, and then open it up for the public. And then I had another chance to go to a different parent education series. This was at the Harbor Ridge Middle School, and they were talking about high school and beyond planning. And I love that they were actually talking about it in middle school, right? And what really kind of the core of that was introducing the kind of the slow roll of the Naviance tool that I think we've heard talked about, but really I didn't know what that was all about until we dove into that a little bit. What a cool tool. I mean, it really is fantastic. And it was a pretty full, again, another situation where there was probably 24 or so folks in the room. And so it just kind of made me realize, between AI for All and between the plant sale, between this outreach series, I'm really, really proud of our district and commend our district for the ways in which we invite the public in and we really reach out to parents. I can't imagine that there's not a week that goes by where there's multiple days a week an opportunity to go in and engage with the schools and engage with teachers and kids and see what's going on. It was, and every one of these I came away just, holy smokes, this is fantastic. So, that was my last 2 weeks.
It's been a couple weeks since we've been here. I do want to say that I'm honored to serve, to be reelected, and to work with this board, and to work with all of you in this district, because this is a great district. We have some great people. And I'm just very honored to be up here in the seat. There was a lot of talk tonight about sense of belonging and wellness. And I came from an industry where that was a big concern among our employees, and I share with you, and anything I can do to support our teachers and our people, including board members, if you ever want to call and talk to me. You got my number. Yep. I was a little concerned with some of our speakers tonight, and I'm glad you brought things in quickly when somebody started showing a little disrespect. that's, that needs to be done. And I appreciate that you took charge and did that. I think we are doing things and heading the right way. I think removing the cell phones from the schools is a big step, and I'm hearing just great feedback from that, getting rid of that social media in our schools and that distraction. So I'm hoping that that's going to be one of the big things we're going to see on the next assessments that come back. These big improvements there. And I like the idea of looking at that test. I've thought about that, how you word, because that's a big thing with surveys. You know, how I want to get the right answer out of you, so I'm going to word the survey and I'm going to lead up to the question. And so I wondered about that with our assessments that we do. Good to hear you acknowledge that. Curriculum is a big thing, and you know that CTE means a lot to me. And I'll even touch on arts. I look around, and especially here lately, I've been looking at people who are earning a living. And so I think that part of our job here is to produce productive members of society, whether that's a physicist or an artist, a backhoe operator, another teacher. You know, that's what we're doing. And I look out there and I got friends who are making a living in arts. So Chris Young lives in our community, has a place. He is the window dresser for Tiffany's. And they just released a video because he just opened Fifth Avenue in New York. And he makes a living in his art. Tip Tolan lives in our community, internationally known artist. And so there's doing the arts is a big deal. I'm a friend with a couple of old rock musicians who actually live in our community, who made their living playing music. And so there are other ways other than putting people down the pathway to math. We can introduce arts, we can do CTE, and there are a lot of other ways to create those productive members of society. And I'm honored that we are looking at those things and that we're going down those pathways. So I feel great that we're supported at this level, and at the teachers are seeing it. I think everybody's starting to embrace it. We need bus drivers, and you can make a living. So there's a lot of ways that we can produce people who can come out of high school and get into society and do great things. And I hope we can get the goodie bags back, the little girl.
Thank you all. I have a few things I do want to say, but I would like to be mindful of our time as well. First off, as both Chuck and Lori have stated, I am grateful for the opportunity to be continuing this work. It is truly an honor. Not everyone has a chance to see their name on a ballot, and it's pretty humbling to know that people trust you with something so important. So thank you to all who have voted and supported, and thank you to this board for supporting me in this role as chair for another year. It's really been a joy to work with all of you. I do want to point out there's no elevation in this position. It's more like a streamlined point of contact for the board, a spokesperson, and I've enjoyed being able to work on the agenda with the superintendent and working with all of you to put forward our priorities. And really, we've been trying to streamline some processes and working with Tanya, making sure that our policies are up to date, and we look forward to continuing that work. So thank you for that. You have all mentioned many of the things that we've been doing. It's been busy, but I do want to point out another program that I had an opportunity to participate in over this past year. It's part of the Rodell Leadership Institute They do a leadership training. It's been a national program where they pull elected officials from across the country and bring them together. It's politically based, so they pull half and half, conservative leaning and liberal leaning politicians, and really try to get together to work over the course of a year on advancing and promoting democracy and bringing back civil discourse into our government. So this last year, they did a pilot program in Washington State and in Rhode Island, and I really. This was our final culminating weekend seminar, and there's a little bit of imposter syndrome, the feeling of I don't know how it was that I was selected to represent our region as an elected official, because the people were absolutely amazing. The program was wonderful. So we did 3 weekend seminars. One was focused on leadership principles, one was focused on founding documents, and this last one was just about where we go from here. We did a lot of work on things like the Declaration of Independence and doing a deep dive into our nation's history and building our republic and our democracy. And honestly, to be tied, even in this work, at this very local level, to be tied to the idea of American exceptionalism or the great American experience is truly humbling. And I'm so excited to be able to continue this work after having gone through that process. But we were as diverse a group as you can imagine. There are representatives from deep urban King County, Seattle, and Eastern Washington. We had a DA from Pend Oreille County. I mean, we were all over the board, and we could get together and discuss how to be civil and how to get together and how to disagree. This was not about deciding on policy or compromising or agreeing on everything, but it was about really listening to someone who differs in opinion from us and understanding that a difference of opinion doesn't mean right or wrong, but we have to be able to move forward and accomplish things. And I think about how does that manifest itself in the work that we do here, and I think we see that playing out oftentimes in the things that we hear and the concerns that we have from our families and our communities. And I'm proud of this board because I think that we all come from very different backgrounds as well, and I think that we have figured out a way to listen and work well together, and I think you do a wonderful job of modeling that for our community. So I thank you for being able to be in an elected position that puts me in a place where I get to make these connections with such amazing leaders throughout the state. Several of them are legislators, and it's interesting. We have some on the K-12 committee who told me what the priorities might be this year, and I thought, how interesting, because I don't remember you asking me what our priorities were, and it's not quite the same as what was on that piece of paper, but I won't go into it in case that they actually listened and maybe adjust some of those, but I would say there might be some unfunded mandates coming our way. Pitched anyway. But an interesting one was, hey, we really think we're going to do a pilot program with some school districts about limiting cell phone use in the schools. And I said, well, you really are not paying attention to what we're doing, are you? So I explained what we're doing here, and they have asked if this gets to be a bill, would we come and testify? And I said, not only will we testify, but we will bring students to talk about how impactful and positive this has been, because I think we should. We have been a leader in this. And so many things, the AI and the cell phone policy, and the work that we're doing on behalf of kids, people are really starting to take notice. And that is a point of pride for me, as I'm sure it is for all of you. Just a couple of local things. Transportation, the busing, I know is a challenge. I know tomorrow we're having a PDC meeting. I know that we have a lot of families with minivans and Suburbans. I mean, I think there is a way that we can maybe connect families who need that support, and let's see if we can maybe get some carpools going or whatever we can do to help families through some really tough times until hopefully we find some more bus drivers. I am really excited to meet with Carol and Dr. NEA, Dr. Johnson, this week. I'm looking forward to that work, and thank you for speaking. I know we have the policy, like you said, that's about secondary trauma, but I really appreciate the focus on holistic well-being for students and staff. I think that's what's going to move the needle for all. There's a calendar survey out right now, so I encourage everyone to take it, staff and students and parents, everyone who is impacted by our instructional calendar in those 180 days. When does it close? Do you know? December 10th. Okay, so 5 more days. So it should be, you'll have a link to it in your parent square. It's probably also on the website. And it really has some great questions about what your priorities are within the calendar. So please do that. And I think that is all for me for comments. So with that, we do have another meeting, and I know it's a short turnaround. It's just next week, next Tuesday here, December 12th at Swiftwater at 6 p.m. I apologize for back-to-back, but we only had one in November, so we had some things to get through before the end of the year. And with that, we are adjourned at 8:39.